Welcome back, everybody, to Bench Racer X here on RacerXOnline.com. I'm Kellen Brauer. He is Donnie Southers, and Aaron Plessinger has won a 450 Supercross main event. Donnie, everybody likes that, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm from Ohio, so I'm from Aaron's stomping grounds. And yeah, Facebook and everything, personal people, everybody's lighting up on it.
Yeah, this is such an awesome story. And obviously, with the heartbreak of Detroit last year, it's like even more of a redemption story as well. So there's so many elements and layers to it. But I think what still gets me the most, Donnie, is just how many of the riders themselves who he competed against came up and congratulated him afterwards. Like, that's just incredible. Like, it just goes to show the type of guy AP is and what people think of him in this sport.
Yeah, it felt like the entire field was lining up to congratulate him pretty much. So it was incredible. And then after the race, being at his pit, every single person was coming up, even guys that should have left hours ago. It was exciting.
Yeah, no question about it. What we kind of wanted to talk about today, though, is that AP wins. He has the points lead in the 450 class. And he's being overshadowed because we've got drama, Donnie. Jet Lawrence, Jason Anderson, the story that just keeps on giving because now we have another Jason Anderson response today. We'll briefly kind of touch on this and then get back to Aaron. But like, how much do we even read into this story? I feel like we got to move on to next week already.
Yeah, I'm ready. And I've seen that in comments. Obviously, I've made videos. I made a video Sunday. I made a video today about it. And, there are a lot of people that are loving it, but there's also a lot of comments that are like, all right, old news, let's get ready. So I'm excited that fans are also kind of already over it.
Yeah, well, I mean, aside from that, like we have a great 450 championship. You got Plessinger now leading by 1 point over his teammate Chase Sexton. Jet Lawrence 4 points back, and then I think we have a three-way tie for fourth right now. Those guys are 11 back. So just looking in how this championship, Donnie, is shaped up through these 3 rounds so far. It's tough to gather answers from a mud race, and I know Anaheim 1 was always kind of like, well, was this real? Do we have any answers yet? Like, is this AP for real gonna battle for this title, I should say?
I mean, it's hard to say no because he was right there at A1. Like he had the speed, he had the lap times to prove it. Like if you dig through the data, AP was incredibly fast at A1, and now he has momentum maybe for the first time in his 450 career.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the big things that AP has hit on really before this win even came about is how comfortable he's felt on the bike. We've heard a lot about how comfortable Chase has been on the bike. And it seems like KTM has a bit more freedom this year on what they can do to the chassis, what kind of forks they can select and stuff like that. So do you think, Donnie, that as well, like just adds to the recipe of this whole thing for Plessinger? Obviously, it makes him feel good on the bike, but this is all stuff that he wasn't able to do before that's now adding to it.
Yeah. Cooper Webb is crying a little bit every night when he goes to sleep at what he's seeing the Red Bull KTM do this year. So yeah, AP was talking about being able to use the different size forks and all that stuff. Chase has been really open about it. It's also worth noting, I don't think anybody pegged KTM coming in 1-2 after 3 rounds and being 1 point apart. Like they almost shared red plates if Chase could have got one more guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely quite interesting to see the way that KTM has kind of turned around, I guess, like a little bit of the public image that people had coming in from the offseason. And obviously, Chase himself didn't like downplay it. He said we were also working on things on the bike. But yeah, I think going into Anaheim 1, if you say we leave round 3 and KTM is 1-2 in points, I don't know many people would have believed any of that.
No, not at all. And the Triple Crown next week, that kind of marks the quarter of the way through the season. It'll be 4 out of 17. And that's a pretty significant milestone. I feel like that's when we'll know everything that's been sorted out. So we're real close to them being at 1-2 when we hit that milestone.
So you and I were both in the stadium, and then we both got a chance to listen to and sort of kind of talk to Aaron Plessinger on the phone on the Pulp MX show last night. What sort of things do you feel listening to AP and that conversation did you, I guess, take away from that and what he's building towards in this season?
It was nice to hear that he said, like I'm happy to be back where I was 3 years ago, implying that he was ready to go on a run, but he has had just really bad luck, whether it be like bike things, injuries, etc. The little crash in Detroit. So it's exciting to see that he knows he belongs here, and he knew that in Detroit, I think. But being able to capitalize that, and I think Steve touched on it a lot, guys like Guy Cooper, Tim Ferry, that, the last few months or the last year almost for AP had to be stressful to think he might have thrown away his only shot to win. So now that that's off his back, he's got it done. Like, he's ready to go.
Yeah, and another thing to also I feel like consider a little bit with AP is he is in a contract year, and I know a lot of people will be like, "Oh, they rise up to the occasion in a contract year or whatever." But for AP, like I feel that this is a crescendo of building to this level, like you mentioned. Like it's been a 3-year process of them getting this new chassis on this bike, and Webb kind of figured some things out last year with it that he liked, and it obviously seemed like AP was making steps as well. But yeah, man, obviously what they can change on the motorcycle now and what they can do to it with this new chassis, this new factory edition as well, seems to be even another step towards putting these guys on the top step.
Yeah, I agree, and again, it's good to have. I think the sport is better when all of the manufacturings are really firing, and I think Yamaha, Honda have it dialed in, and now KTM appears to have it dialed in as well.
Yeah, so obviously, like I said, we can't take too much away from these first 3 rounds, but in just watching, I guess, how this championship has already shaped up, like what's kind of your biggest takeaways from 3 rounds going into this Triple Crown?
Despite everybody, and I shouldn't say everybody, a lot of guys having off rounds, there's been enough off rounds through the pack that nobody's really eliminated. Normally by now we have somebody injured or somebody has, a bad DNF. Like obviously, I guess Malcolm is the one guy that you could say did have a little bit of buzz about flying at the test track that has been, mathematically people are already putting him out of the picture. But all of the other guys, the people that have won titles, they're all still 100% in it. And this weekend, any of those guys could walk away with the red plate and I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I mean, Jason Wygant, I believe, said, everyone that had a good mud race at San Francisco had a bad mud race at San Diego and vice versa. So like you said, it's kind of evened out a little bit. We've got this more or less like restart a little bit going into the Triple Crown this weekend. Donnie, for you, I know you're not going to be at Anaheim this weekend, but how loud do you think the crowd will be when Aaron Plessinger is announced as the points leader in opening ceremony?
Oh man, it's got to be loud because if it's any indication, like I wish that every single person watching this could have been in the stadium last week and hear the crowd as he did his final lap. Each section, it felt like a wave, like a baseball, doing the wave of noise. And I have personally never seen that. I'm not saying it's the loudest, but the way that it was done. This is probably going to be one of the loudest reactions we've had in a very long time.
Yeah, I guess another question to ask you about this, Donnie, is we've seen in other sports when like the most popular figure becomes the guy that it kind of, turns the tide a little bit. And I guess to a degree, we've seen it in moto when like Bubba was so popular and then became the guy and then people started either liking or disliking him. What do you think this does for the sport when you have kind of the more or less most popular figure in Aaron Plessinger in the pits suddenly leading the points?
Yeah, that's a good question because I feel like especially his type, his brand of personality is very different from everybody else. So that's a really great question. I honestly don't really have I haven't really even considered it, but I don't think it's going to get to the point where people are going to start hating Aaron Plessinger. I don't think that is possible. If we're being honest.
No, I don't think so. The cowboy hat will still be flying and the mullet will be flying behind him as he rides around the track, no matter where he goes. But yeah, awesome to see AP win. If you had to pick anybody, though, going into this Triple Crown, Donnie, who has the edge on a finally dry track 3 main events at Anaheim 2?
Oh gosh. I think from what I saw, I like the Yamaha guys. I think Tomac and Webb, they both obviously didn't have the race they might have wanted, but if you look at the lap times and stuff, they were right there in the mud. They were Eli's been very vocal that he, has figured some stuff out, some A1. So I think I see one of those guys maybe winning, maybe even taking the red plate home.
Well, that'll be certainly exciting from the series standpoint to have another new winner on the series in 4 rounds of this championship. But Donnie, thanks for joining me today. Aaron Plessinger, a winner and now the points leader in the 450 SX class. I don't know what's about to happen, but I know it's going to be good, and I can't wait to see it. And thank you guys for tuning in to another edition of Bench Racer X here on RacerXOnline.com. Be sure to visit RacerXOnline.com for all your motocross and supercross news.